fairway finders will always beat bombers. Here's why. Lauren Coughlin is starting to make waves in the LPGA Tour, and here's why you should care. She's hitting 82% of fairways and 76% of greens in regulation. That's not luck, that's precision. And here's the truth that no one is telling you. Pros hit 40 to 50% more greens when they're in the fairway versus when they miss it. So if the best players in the world gain that much of an edge just by being in play, what do you think you should be prioritizing? I'll give you a clue. It's not bombing driver 40 yards offline. It's not chasing distance with an Instagram tip. You are not elite. You are average, and that's okay because average golfers can absolutely play smart, score better, and take a page straight out of Lauren's book. And let me show you how she does it, as we will diagnose her swing, and then you can look at your swing to see how some of this can matter to you. But real quick, I want to give a huge thank you to our channel members. These awesome people right here are going above and beyond to support what we do. You are the reason why I can keep bringing honest, no fluff, cause and effect breakdowns to the golf community without relying on sponsors pushing the newest gimmick or golf tchotchke. If you believe in this mission and want to help me keep producing videos and live swing analysis streams that actually help the everyday golfer, consider subscribing or becoming a member. Every little bit helps, but let's go analyze her swing. First, just take a look at the swing. It's so robotic. I mean, this is a swing that I would love to have. So this brings me on a little quick subject here. Somebody gave me an option that said, Tony, you can hit this thing 240 and hit every fairway. You never miss a fairway in your life. You just hit it 240, or you can hit it 270, 280, and you hit the average fairways 40 to 60%. I would without a doubt take that first option every single day. It makes your life so much easier. Just choose the right tees, play to your tee length. Just for an example, I got to play the other day with a friend of mine. I haven't played with him in a while, and we played a combination tees. I think the total yardage was 6,500 yards. Man, it was such an enjoyable day. I can play the 7,200 yards, but what's the point? My back's gonna hurt. I'm not gonna have as much fun. So choose your right tees, for heaven's sake, please. Enough of my soapbox. So this swing, we're going to take a look at the cause and effect. We're going to look at her setup. We're going to look at how her body moves through the shot. Now, we don't have any face-on views. I was like a creep going through her Instagram profile, her Facebook, and YouTube, and I couldn't find a face-on. I could find these distance ones where you have to zoom in, and all of a sudden we just see 2 pixels. It wouldn't make much sense. So we're just going to do down the line. As we get more videos of her, I want to revisit her later and do a face-on. But this down the line, we got great example here of driver and iron. We're going to take a look at how she hits the irons better, how she hits the driver better. We're going to take a look at why she's able to hit so many fairways and so many greens in regulation. It has to do with her setup and how she maintains her tilting and turning. But I want you to look at this one little area specifically for you, and it's your release pattern. So let's just start it out by doing our usual lines. Without boring you, I'll go ahead and put these lines down. So the Barney purple lines, as usual, will be our plane lines. We have the lower plane line, upper plane line. We have the spine angle in Ivan red, and then the mallow yellow as her back brace line. And this will show you how she moves her body into the golf ball to try and maintain that posture. And we have double greens today. Now the reason is we take her from the arches of the heels up, and since she has a closed stance, we do both arches so we can kind of see where her centeredness is, and it could be a camera angle. She could set up a little bit closed naturally, but this is just to allow us to take a look at her centeredness. Now we see the gapping is a little bit different, so her iron swing is actually favoring more of her toes, and her driver swing is favoring more of the heels. And we just take a look at where this X is, which one is it closer to, which I found that a little unusual, but it could make more sense to allow more rotation for the driver as opposed to the irons. But we'll also look at her turn numbers. But this is very important for you at home. Look at your down the line, take a look at where your feet are. Are they supporting the hips? A lot of the times with the amateurs, I see they're either standing way too close to the golf ball, not providing them enough room, or they're standing too far away from the golf ball, and all of a sudden they're so toe heavy that adjusts their turning ability, and they're fighting their centeredness. So remember, you're trying to be athletic here. Let me shrink my head down so it doesn't affect much and put me right in that corner over there, just where I belong, in the dunce corner. So we take this club back and we can see that both swings, the club goes below the plane line. Now remember that stat out there? You see a lot of videos out there about this initial takeaway that says a high majority of players get their club either at this lower plane line or above it. Well, here's a player that's probably one of the minorities out there. She gets the club below that plane. So it's clearly you can do anything you want as long as it's consistent. Remember that consistency is key. Your compensations need to occur correctly to provide you with some consistency, and it doesn't have to look pretty. It can work. I've seen some crazy looking swings, mine too, that just somehow works. But on both of these, let's back it up a little bit to see where that club face is. So both of these, the club face is veering slightly open to her spine angle, and we lose the face angle on the driver, but we can see that this one on the left side, the spine angle is opening up. Now that is good because that's the rolling of the forearms, and the wrists are opening up, which can release some pressure as you turn and establish your tilt. Now remember, tilting and turning is key. So as we take it back a little bit further, when you start to roll the forearms and set your wrist a little bit earlier, what can happen is it moves your hands closer to your right side sooner. So we do see evidence of this. We see those hands are already over that right shoulder, which is fine. Again, as long as you do it over and over again. Now, I am always looking to see how far can you stay connected. Now, it doesn't mean it has to occur, but for the average player, I do see that the hands do go on their own little journey by themselves, and all of a sudden that can cause some turn issues because your hands are already back there. You don't need as much turn, so you just figure this is a full swing, but in reality it's all you know who and noodle arms are coming into play. But a great thing that she does do is stay pretty close to her lower plane line at that midway point. When we see more connected players, we see their arms more out in front, and at this point it's already veering up to that secondary plane line, and you can see the driver is definitely in that lower plane longer. Now what is allowing this to occur as well is the loss of shoulder tilt. So if we go to the top of the swing, we will start to see both shoulder tilts are a little bit flat to where they need to be. So there's that shoulder tilt on the iron, and here is the shoulder tilt on the driver. Now, if this was Robbie the Robot Iron Byron, you will see that those shoulders will stay perpendicular to that spine. We're not looking for it to happen automatically as long as you can compensate correctly. So we will see her compensations, but this is the thing I want you to look for, is look at your shoulder tilt at the top. Is it perpendicular to your spine? Did your spine raise up? Why did it raise up? Maybe it's your centeredness, maybe it's your setup, maybe it's a lack of rotation, but if it raises up, now how do you compensate? There's a couple key things that she does to compensate correctly. Number one is we take a look at that lower plane line. As a result, when you start losing your tilting, your left arm, or your trail arm for my lefties out there, will be a little bit lower than your secondary plane line. So you see that top Barney Purple line, it hasn't quite been hit. Same thing with the irons. That's because we're flattening out our shoulder tilt. Now when you flatten out your tilt, what happens automatically? Those hands and arms just move on down with you. So you have to now compensate for that. Take a look at the slight adjustment she does on her transition points. And we're going to consider her transition point when she starts to uncoil from the bottom. She has great sequencing. So look at the hips. The hips are already moving forward while the hands are still getting set. Now, because they move a little bit sooner, watch what happens to the plane. So this is one of the first professionals I have seen yet that does this, where her triangle check, we usually see those triangle checks stay there and they will fall right down that center of the triangle check for their first move. But because she has lost some shoulder tilt, her hands are flatter through repetition and her sequencing, watch what happens to the hands. The hands actually get deeper. You see that? That tiny little move there. It changed her whole triangle at the top of her swing once she gets that transition. So the early motion with her hips realigns her hands to the secondary plane line. Now they're on a totally different triangle. Now they're going to go straight down. And what we'll see on both of these is they will follow that path much better. There we go. And now they start to fill outside that triangle like they should, because the rotation catches up even more. Now there's a cool thing that happens with her because she has a flatter shoulder tilt at the top. Now if you flatten out your left shoulder, so as I turn and my left shoulder gets high, what's lower already? My right shoulder. So now all of a sudden for the driver, that is pretty important to get that right shoulder drive a little bit lower to help you engage the tilt. So she doesn't have to accentuate the tilt at the top of the swing. She just turns because it's already been pre-tilted, if that makes sense. And because of that, she's able to return to that lower plane line on the correct path because of that slight adjustment she had with the lower hips going soon. We do see a very ever so slight posture loss, so we see a slight coming up and in on both of these. But you see, they're about the same. So both her driver and her irons lose the same amount of tilt, the same amount of posture loss. We have the same footing, the same rotation. So there's not much difference other than the longer plane, which she set up correctly for. So she has the same compensations with a longer club, which gives her a consistent, repeatable motion because she doesn't have to feel like it's two completely different swings. It's not. It's just swinging the same around a different setup. As we come through, we're going to see the release pattern be a little bit different with the irons than they are with the driver, and we'll talk about this, but I want to make sure we see where that club comes out. Here is the driver. You can see it has been released and it is closer to her plane line, where the iron, you can see it come on up and it's actually pointing closer to her spine angle. And it's very important to know the difference of your release patterns, and it's based on tilt and how you hold your tilt. So let's do a quick tilt check. We're going to go right just past impact when we get our full tilting established, and we see there is the iron tilt. It is at 58, and the driver tilt should be a little bit less than that, and it is at 46. So it's about 10 degrees. We're going to call it 10 degrees. But let's go to the top of the swing and take a look at the shoulder tilting at the top. So there is the top of the swing. For the irons, we are at 37. For the driver, we are at 25. So we see that same 20-degree tilting, although the dynamic impact tilt is 10 degrees more with the iron. We still see that same 20 degrees of motion. So we're seeing evidence of the exact same motion, the same compensations, the same weight distribution, the same spine angle loss, the same tilting loss, the same tilting increase at impact. It's all the same. It's just basically set up differently to move differently, if that makes sense. And this is important for how the club exits and goes beyond exiting. Because we have more shoulder tilt at impact, we have 58 degrees versus 46. The more tilt you have, the higher your hand path exit will become. The less tilt you have, the lower the hand path exit becomes, and the faster your release has to occur. Because essentially this circle is pointed here based on her shoulders, and this circle is pointed here based on her shoulders. So we have the driver circle is flatter than the iron circle. Now we're going to keep an eye on that circle based on her shoulders. So as we come on through, look at where the club is. The club exits with the driver exactly on that circle. Where does the club exit with the irons? Exactly on that circle. Isn't that crazy to see? There's the iron. They're both on the circle of your tilting. Now that also changes how your hands are. So if you we're going to clear up all these lines so it's not so confusing out here. So let's go down to impact here. We're going to take a look at the club head. The club head with the irons will never veer off this side because the tilting is going to accentuate that hand path higher. So as we see, the club is still above the hands. As we come on through, the club is still above the hands. Even here, the club is still above the hands. So you want to make sure that that club head stays outside of the hands even through impact because of your tilting. If your tilting's correct, this should occur naturally, which means your hands aren't involved as much, what does that mean? Your club face is squarer, longer through impact. So that's key. If we go down to the driver, we can see that because it is a flatter circle based on her hip, based on her shoulders, as we come on through, watch the club. The club is above the hands here. And as we get through, boom, the club now is below the hands because flatter circles require more hands to help square that club face because it is flatter. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, longer clubs are always harder to hit straighter because of our tilting. And the tilting changes the path of your circle. The longer the club gets, the flatter that circle becomes naturally. Doesn't matter how much tilt you engage, you can only engage so much because of the length of the club. Unless you want to dig your way from here in La Quinta to China. I think China's on the other side. If not, you'll probably end up in some sort of ocean. But I hope that helps you. Hope it makes sense. Hope it didn't confuse you. If I did, let me know in the comments down below. But other than that, I will see you next time. Let me know who you like next. And don't forget, leave a like, leave a comment. Help support us. Let's go. Fairways and greens.